Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski of WeAreChange.org, and yet here another edition of what the hooey, the hell, the malarkey, the fiddlesticks family-friendly show is going on. And that's why in this video we are going to be breaking down the secret formula behind the mainstream media, which I will explain to be the worst force against humanity right now, as well as talking about the three biggest threats to our future existence. That, of course, being I'm not going to just click bait you here. I'm going to be basically talking about water, the economy, and the surveillance state. In this particular video that is sponsored by you, the viewer, an individual that decides to go to WeAreChange.org/donate and says, you know what, I had enough of this malarkey and hooey. Enough is enough, and I am putting my money where my mouth is, and I will support real independent media that gets censored for telling us the truth, which I could do in many different ways here on WeAreChange.org/donate. Yeah, you should definitely check that out. Link in the description. Okay, now moving forward. As you know, I've been a very, very critical person when it comes to the mainstream media. In my opinion, they are the number one threat against humanity because information is everything. Knowledge is power. The existence of a free press and free flow of information is directly correlated to free and open and prosperous societies in our existence as humans. And it is an extremely important responsibility that many people just throw out the window for profit and power, sadly. And I think that could be definitely exemplified not only with our modern day current society as is now, which I believe is a result from the mainstream media, but the mainstream media in the state that it is in itself. I mean, look at the ridiculousness that it is pushing. And I want to highlight two clips, one specifically by MSNBC here and another one by CNN, but specifically let's start off with MSNBC. And look at this piglet little script reader that with somehow a straight face is telling the viewing audience that believing that there's two genders is, quote, incendiary. And now moving forward to the, quote, most trusted name in news, CNN, that hires the most amount of snitches, spies, and feds on their specific channel, some of them even disgraced ones. CNN and its star, baby looking like anchor, they are literally comparing Donald Trump and saying that he may be responsible for many more deaths than Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, and Mao Zedong. Holy cow. And again, this is the type of information that CNN viewers, mainly at the airport, are inundated with. And again, just like I opened this video up with the secret recipe of the mainstream media, this is ultimately it. Fear, ignorance, brewing and creating the hate that is fomented in our society with the larger divide and conquer agenda, and all of this is done in the name of money and power. I mean, you might be confused looking at CNN, MSNBC, and even some other news networks out there to kind of question yourself, like, well, what's going on here? Did somehow MSNBC get a moral conscience and start caring about gender inclusion? Is CNN really doing its best to try to prevent another mass murderer, another government warlord, which pretty much is equivalent to politician, another government politician from committing murder? Did they somehow have this weird moment of consciousness? No, these are the biggest institutions calling for more war. So again, there are false pretenses that they're trying to do the right thing here falls flat on its face with the direct facts of them being the biggest proponents and pushers of war on our society. They are doing this clearly in a very desperate move for money and power. And this has been admitted. There's even a recent op-ed published by Megan Greenwell that exposed how the media industry has absolutely no integrity and is using the social justice warrior brand because it gets them clicks, since these mega companies and their special interests are only predominantly interested in making money. And this is correlated with what we reported on before, particularly this article that is titled How Mike.com Exploited Social Justice for Clicks and Then Abandoned a Staff That Believed in It. And again, this is why we have the denigration and destruction of our society, because of the flow of information that is corrupted, that is poisoned by these prostitutes who will do and say anything for a buck. They are the horse-stream media. And this is why, in my opinion, is one of the main reasons why our society is as divided as it is now. Now, there's probably an assortment of other issues that coalesced into this bigger kind of societal clashing point that is becoming more unavoidable. But what do you think? These are just some of my conclusions. Am I being hyperbolic? Am I incorrect in any way? Let me know in the comment section below. I always appreciate a very fiery debate, and your comments mean a lot to me, especially if they could teach me something from a different perspective. So feel free to voice off in the comment section below. But again, we have to understand here, the most powerful people allegedly in our society, the most people with the most amount of influence, usually there's a lot of money behind them. Usually there's a lot of corruption behind them. And this is one of the reasons why I am such a proponent of decentralized, small, independent media organizations that, of course, get demonetized, deranked, and censored by, of course, no one other than Google, that promotes the mainstream media, that, again, will even stoop so low as to literally do the bidding of billionaire pedos like Jeffrey Epstein, as we saw many publications, including the most notable, the Huffington Post, do, rather than warn and inform the general public, which is the duty of journalists that they have so betrayed because of the special interests and power behind them. And again, the majority of the American public sees this and they understand this. I mean, there was even a recent poll that just came out talking about how 70% of Americans, on average, saying that they are angry at the political system for only serving insiders with money and power. Those same insiders also have control of the mainstream media that misdirect you and make you hate your fellow man rather than see the true corruption that is happening in our society. Because then you would stop it and they wouldn't be getting rich off of you. But again, I'm speaking in very generalized terms here. But there is a deep boiling anger of dissatisfaction, especially amongst our system, according to this one specific poll. But that's okay, because we have Taylor Swift dominating the headlines. Yeah, forget about all that. Taylor Swift, yeah, she's calling... She's saying that Donald Trump thinks the presidency is an autocracy and that she's pledging to do everything she can for the 2020 elections because, quote, we're a democracy. Oh, goodness. Golly gracious. I'm sorry, but those are just an example of some of the distractions that are keeping us away from actually looking at the core issues of actual real issues and real problems, with just the cancerous notion of our culture war that has completely gone mentally deranged. Now, continuing on with what I said I was going to talk about earlier in this video, the three main things that we should be kind of looking at very seriously. Now, of course, there's a lot of things to be aware. There's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of institutionalized societal traps that are laid out for you, that screw you, that no one wants to tell you anything about because people profit off of them. But we're not going to get into those specific issues. We're going to get into some of the issues that I find very concerning and something that our attention should be on. And one of the first things that I want to talk about is, of course, water, which, of course, the scarcity and pollution of will be a major issue that the world will have to face. That is upon us, as already we are seeing very significant news coming from South Africa regarding that specific issue, but something that our attention should be on, especially when we have mass, mega, international conglomerate corporations like Nestle that usually go into major cities and districts and buy off the politicians and are able to, essentially, in my opinion, steal all the water for pennies on the dollar, if not free, then bottle it and sell it back to the citizens that it took it from. And this is on the heels of Nestle announcing that they are going to be planning to take a 1.1 million gallons of water a day from the natural springs in Florida. And again, we're going to see very brazen actions like this from private interests escalate. And again, this is again, not anything to kind of fearmonger about, but something to keep a critical eye on, especially in the particular region you live in, and the potential future possibility of access to clean drinking water. Another thing that a lot of people aren't really talking about is, of course, the economy, as many people are expecting a recession to hit, specifically with the U.S. economy, which is riddled with many different concerning economic bubbles. But the important aspect that needs to be understood here is that the normal cycles that go up and down economically have not been following the normal trends of late, and this is why many people expect a bigger downturn than before, since it hasn't happened in a longer time than it usually does in the ebbs and flows and cycles of the economy. And again, many economic experts are dumbfounded with the current economic cycle that we are in. But again, many people are seeing a downturn happening sooner or later, which is going to mean significant trouble for our millennial population, which of course many have described as downtrodden, in massive debt, with lacking any real life ability of survival. And with the prospects of the downturn of this economy, they are saying that this will affect them the most in a very severe way, which is the second thing that I wanted to bring up. And the third thing that I wanted to bring up is, of course, the rise of the technocratic surveillance state, which is something that we hear a lot about, specifically coming from China, with its all-encompassing, all-seeing social credit score that is already in use, that has already denied millions of people of the ability to travel for the horrible activities of questioning your government or smoking in a place where you're not supposed to be smoking. But we have to understand here that the technocratic surveillance state is not just in China, but also being secretly built here in the United States by big tech companies that collude and work with a very significant portion of not only the U.S. war machine at the Pentagon, but many of our, quote, intelligence agencies that harvest our data. Data that is so sophisticated that can predictively program your next steps and understand your behavior before you even commit it in some instances. And again, the rise of big data. It's far more valuable than even some natural resources, as some estimates have proved that data, information on private individuals, is worth more than oil on the world market. And with this being done in the collusion of the Pentagon and U.S. intelligence agencies, we have to understand the ramifications for this, if put in the wrong hands, because they already are in the wrong hands, is extremely severe. And the third thing that I do believe we should, as a society, kind of look into and actually pay attention to. I'm not just talking about posting a silly Instagram message saying, "Hey, don't spy on me, please," and what all the Kyles are doing. But regardless of that, what really needs to be understood here is that something's not right here. There's actual issues that we should be concerned about. There's actual things that we should have a conversation about, that we should look into, that we should make steps in our life to be prevented from being victims of these larger things. And sadly, if the mainstream media was doing their job, they would be concentrating on that. And because they're not, well, hell, I'm here. And with your help, with your donations, with your support, I'm still able to somehow survive, even though the algorithm definitely is not friendly to us. But because of your support, I truly, 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 deep down from the bottom of my heart, thank you for allowing me to do this job for you. If it wasn't for you getting involved, you participating, you saying enough is enough, I wouldn't be here. And that's why. Love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.